Good morning, everybody. Steve Itzkowitz, aka Speakeasy Steve of the Living Room Podcast, with my video of the week. This week is about there comes a time in life where you feel like I have a belief that, based on experience, that life is broken up into two very distinct chapters or even books of your life. The first half of your life is learning who you are, figuring out what you're passionate about, experimentation, adventure, finding yourself, making discoveries, learning about yourself, learning about the world, learning about people. Then the second half of your life comes in. And that's where your wisdom is, learning from your past mistakes, thinking more long term, knowing who you are, knowing what you like, what you don't like, knowing what you want from other people, the type of people you want to interact with. Maybe your social circle gets smaller. Maybe your family, you're sending your family off to college and you're preparing to become a senior citizen. You're thinking more long term. A lot of your first half of life is short term, and a lot of your second half of life is long term. Your financial nest egg, where you're going to live, when you're going to retire, being prepared for when your day comes, if you will. And then in between the first half of your life and the second half of your life is a transition period. And this is where it feels like your old life is falling apart and your new life is coming in. However, you're a little bit disheveled. This is what some people might call the midlife crisis. And I don't want to look at it as a crisis because now I think about it is a crisis. Crisis might be a part of it. However, there's also the part of self-actualization, self-realization, self-awareness. You're as aware of yourself as you've ever been. You realize who you are. You've actualized yourself, and you're comfortable with yourself for the most part. There's also things you can work on. Yes, every human being is a work in progress. However, when you get to the second half of your life, usually you're much closer to being a finished product than you are being something that continues to be moldable, like the mold of clay that you have, and you're going to shape it into something. Well, at this point, you're pretty well shaped. But in the transition period, you could be lost. You can start asking questions of yourself: where do I fit in anymore? I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm not as naive as I used to be. I'm a little bit wiser now, but I still got a ways to go. Or this way. I should look at it from my opposite head, but you get the idea. I'm kind of in that life right now between the first half of my life, the second half of my life. One of the littlest things is that at the prompting of a friend of mine named Randy, he said I should get on the Acorns app where I could build up another way to build up money. Acorns offers a roundup feature to round up your money when you commit to either gold, silver, or bronze investment per month, which ranges from $3 to $12, three for bronze, six for silver, 12 for gold. I signed up for gold. I figured, well, $12 a month, why not? That's probably going to benefit me more in the long run. It's not a lot of money to commit to on a monthly basis. So I opened up this account. He says to me when we're eating dinner the other day at a restaurant called Islands in the city of Corona, near where I live. He says, "I'm glad you're thinking about this stuff." And I said, "Yes, I'm in my 50s now, and I've been through a lot. I'm a divorcee, and I've written a book, and I've had a career that has been very varietal. I've been in sales, and for the last several years, I've been in transportation. And, 3 years ago, I realized my dream of being a sports broadcaster, and I hope to do that for a long time to come because I love talking about sports. And I believe I was born with the gift of a good voice and good knowledge and passion about sports to where that could be part of the second half of my life. A big part of the second half of my life is talking about sports, broadcasting sports, calling games, running podcasts, initiating discussions about topics in sports and things of that nature, but I digress. I told him, I said, I'm at a point where I have to think about stuff like this. I've got to think about when I want to start collecting my Social Security. I'm 54 now. My plan is to start collecting it in about 14 years at the age of 68. Will I retire at that time? We'll see. It depends on what I'm doing. And if I enjoy what I'm doing, I may work further. But I certainly want to start collecting my Social Security so I can benefit from it, liquidating any stocks that I might have so that I could benefit from those. And also, having a secondary income source coming from money in a trust fund right now that will essentially represent the pension to go along with Social Security and any moves that I make, CDs and things of that nature, so as to create the largest next egg that I possibly could for the day that might come when I don't work anymore. I'll keep working as long as I can, especially if it's something I enjoy. But there might come a time where I don't have the wherewithal to work full time or even part time. We'll see. We'll see when that happens. I want to travel. I've got a travel bucket list that I want to cross off as much of it as I possibly can. I figure that my prime traveling days will last until the age of 75. I could be wrong about this. It could be longer, but I'm thinking when it comes to traveling the way I want to do it, I need to get it all in or as much as I possibly can by the age of 75, which is 21 years from now. And places I want to visit domestically and internationally that I have in mind. But these are the things that you think about: your nest egg, what you want to do in your retirement years, when you want to retire, or if you want to retire, depending upon what you're doing and how much it enhances you. It's not so much about experimentation anymore. Like, let's try this, let's try that. And even though I'm in the point of my life where maybe I want to make a career change, one final career change, because the business that I'm in might go to AI completely, which means the opportunities that I have now might not be there several years from now. So I'm thinking along those lines. But that's another advantage of experience. Even when you get to the gap between the first half of your life and second half of your life, is that you're able maybe to predict better things that might happen because you're paying close attention to that now. You're not in an idealistic phase of I'm going to be young forever and I can figure it out as I go along. And that's all true, except for being young forever, of course. But you have to you have to be more honest with yourself. You have to anticipate better based on your experience. You have to understand that change is constant and you have to be adjustable. I think adjustable is a big word here, being adjustable. Young people can be very obstinate, very optimistic, and older people can be obstinate too in terms of what their philosophy is in life and what they expect. But you have to be adjustable. But you also have to have your life to a point where that you have everything that you need and will continue to have everything you need as you grow older. And you've got to pass on the wisdom that you have to people younger than you that are following you in this journey of life. And so when you're in that gap, like I'm in right now, where do you fit in? I'm currently in therapy because I need to work on my head. I've had burnout issues, depression issues. I've gone through a number of life events in the last year and a half. I'm also a disease survivor from several years ago. Been through a lot of life. The amount of wisdom I've accumulated about life and how much awareness I've gained of myself in the last 10 years has been indescribable. It's been absolutely incredible. Not always in a good way, but incredible, very eye-opening. And so now I'm in this transition period, thinking more long term now. I know I'm going in the right direction. I know therapy is going to help me. And I know that I'm figuring out what I want to do for the rest of my career over the next 15 years, roughly. I'm figuring out whether I should remain where I live or move elsewhere. I'm figuring out, what things I can do, like signing up for an Acorns account to maximize my financial next egg when I get to retirement and make sure I'm comfortable there. Thinking about that stuff more now because I'm at that point in life. But the gap comes from a divorce I wasn't expecting, being in therapy, trying to make a career change at a point in life where it might be tricky to do so, but I see the writing on the wall of my current career and I want to pivot. I also know there's other things that I can do besides driving, and I want to try to maximize those things because those might be positions or a career I want to keep pursuing even beyond when most people might retire in their mid to late 60s. I might not need to do that. I might not want to do that. We'll see. From a driving standpoint, yeah, I don't want to keep doing this. I want to switch that. But in terms of retiring, if it's something I enjoy doing, I'll keep doing it in retiring, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to collect what I'm entitled to in retirement, like Social Security and liquidating my stocks and collecting on the pension for the trust fund within my family that will give me what I need financially to take care of myself, but also to enjoy my life and to accomplish as much of that travel bucket list and have as many experiences as I possibly can. These are the things I'm currently in the process of organizing in this gap between the first half of my life and the second half of my life. So, to wrap this up, for those of you that are approaching, you feel you're in your mid to late 40s, into your 50s, you might have a family, you're sending your kids off to college, you're wondering where you fit in. I wouldn't ask so much that question because ultimately, if you know who you are, it's easy to figure out where you fit in. What you may want to ask yourself is that what life fits me at this point in my life based on who I am, what I've learned, what I like, what I don't like. What life fits for me, including what you do for a living, when you should retire, where you'll live, who your friends are, who is the company that you want to keep, because not everyone is going to be good for you at this point in your life. Some close relationships you might have had might not make sense anymore based on where you are in life, where they are in life. So you have to weigh all this stuff, and it's challenging, which means you want to do it one day at a time. And I think getting involved in therapy to help have someone help you chart out the second half of your life is really, really helpful. And that's ultimately what I hope will happen. And the therapy I've committed to is charting out what the second half of my life looks like until my dying day. And I'll get there. And I hope all of you that might watch this video who might be at that point in life where you're in the gap between the first half of your life and the second half of your life, you'll get clear about that as well. My name is Steve Itzkowitz, aka Speakeasy Steve of the Living Room Podcast with the video of the week. We'll be back next time. In the meantime, let us remind you that time spent with friends is time well spent.